Welcome to part 2 of our 2-part series on joy. This is Enhancing the Human Experience, and this is episode 65. Hey, welcome. And if you didn't get a chance to listen to part 1, you don't have to listen to it. I think it might be beneficial if you did, because we talk about joy in the sense that you can't get to the experience of joy if you don't plant seeds of joy all along the way in your consciousness, right? It's kind of one of those duh concepts, but if you're anything like me, you need to hear that frequently to remind yourself that, hey, that really is the case. You can't get where you're going if you don't have the qualities within yourselves as you walk along the way. That's how I feel anyway. But in this episode, we're going to look at something that I feel is really exciting, and we're going to take Marie Kondo's KonMari Method and we're going to apply it to your life and your business. If you're not familiar with her book, that is the life-changing magic of tidying up. And I was introduced to this book by a friend of mine, and it really is awesome, and it's simple. You know how I feel about simple concepts. I mean, life is complicated enough because of the nature of the monkey mind. We don't need to make it more complicated. We're going in the other direction, aren't we? Because we are smart and we've learned from past experience that you can't get simplicity and better experiences from complexity. It's just not going to happen. I have this conversation with friends of mine from time to time about the complex nature of the world. And I don't mean complexity that's beneficial. I mean just complexity that is just silly, quite frankly, has no real purpose or end goal. It's just overly complex. And I think it's a direct function of the nature of the mind, is like wanting to make life more complex. When we know that the simplest solution is usually the best solution, and the simplest solution usually is the easiest solution to implement. And it also resonates with our inner wisdom, doesn't it? Have you ever had that experience when you hear something that's really complex, maybe a offering from a professional or a book or something, and it just doesn't quite jive with you, and you kind of think, well, this is just overly complex, right? We don't do that here. We simplify things and make them really, really easy to implement. And that's what we're going to do on this podcast. Okay, so like I said, the KonMari Method is all about asking ourselves if this item sparks joy. Of course, Marie Kondo, she's a declutterer type person. I was going to say minimalist, but I don't know if that's exactly what she is. She's more of an organization guru is what I'd call her, for, lack of a better word. I don't know her specific title, but she helps people get rid of the stuff that is cluttering and clogging up their lives. And she uses this method and this primary focusing question, kind of like the one thing Gary Keller and Jay Papasan ask in their thing, hey, what's the one thing you can do right now that will make everything else easier or unnecessary? That's their focusing question. Well, Marie Kondo's focusing question is, you look at an item and you hold it in your hand, shirt, piece of paper, a book, whatever else, and say, you know what? Does this thing spark joy? And if it doesn't, you get rid of it. Simple, right? Simple, simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the sequence of steps in her KonMari Method for decluttering, but we're going to use it looking at life and business. Now, maybe we'll go into each one of those. Maybe we'll kind of bundle them together, but in a very real sense, we're talking about activities, things that you're doing in your life, in your business, commitments, things that are on your schedule that we're going to look at those. We're going to say, hey, does this activity spark joy? Because like we talked about in the first episode, we're never going to get to an experience of joy if we are overwhelmed with experiences that aren't joyful. And I mean those activities that we're doing on a day-to-day basis in your business, in your life, in your personal life, whatever area that you're doing something that's not joyful, you're never going to get to a place of joy. And I think we can all come to the same consensus that we all want to get to the joy, right? That's where the real meat and potatoes is, That's a silly acronym. That's a silly metaphor, I realize, but that's where the real goodness of life is, right? We want to get to the goodness, the joy. So let's go through this sequence. And this is from Marie Kondo's book and like how she goes about this. So she says, clean up all at once. So we're going to apply it to our business and our life. We're going to do an area all at once, right? We're going to do it all at once. Maybe set aside a day where you block out the whole day to just do this KonMari method on your business and your life. And step 2 is to visualize your destination. Well, that's easy for us, right? Because we know we're going to the joy, and we know we want to have an experience of joy waiting for us in our business and our life. That's easy. Step 3 is to identify why you want to get to that experience, right? Well, why you want to have that vision. And this is huge because the why is going to drive us, isn't it? The why is going to make us push forward, because if there's not a strong why, who is it? Simon Sinek talks about the strong why, right? If there's not a strong why behind what you're doing, you're not going to go anywhere. So you got to know your why. Your why is that you want to feel good, and the why is probably that you want to have joy. Now, I don't mean to be putting words into your mouth. You may have other whys, but those are just some of the common whys that we would do something like this. Now we get to the critical step of finding out if the activity that is on your schedule, whether it's a personal schedule or a personal activity or a business schedule, sparks joy. And only you can know that. So you got to look at the activity. You've got to think about what you're doing there and ask yourself, does it spark joy? Now, one of the things that I like to look at, since I'm doing online business here, and since I have a lot of systems and processes that I do in order to produce the podcast or make the products or write a book or make a blog post, anything that filters into my business, I'm going to be looking at that activity. And you know what? I can already see in my own business that some of the activities don't spark joy, and they are going to be out, because we're going to be ruthless when we cut away the things that don't spark joy, aren't we? Because if we know it doesn't spark joy, what did we learn in the prior podcast? We learned that you can't be in the spirit of non-joy and get to a place of joy. So we've already known, at least I have accepted that. If you haven't accepted that, then maybe you just need to think about it more. Maybe that's not the case. For me, I've already accepted that's the case. And so I know I'm going to be ruthless in my cut out of activities in my business and in my life that don't spark joy. So asking yourself, does this activity spark joy? Now, I want to offer one other way to look at this. The activity, I look at it as being the thing we're doing in the physical world, which I think is the bigger aspect here. You know, Marie Kondo looks at things, clothing, books, clutter in the home. Those are physical things. We're looking at somewhat physical things. They are in this world. They're activities we're doing in our business, or commitments, or places we need to go, or things that are on our schedule. But I also want to offer this other way to look at it, just because I like to look at this whole bigger picture, the inner and the outer, the consciousness and the experience. Maybe just contemplate for a moment, is what I'm thinking, saying, and let's even throw feeling in there, sparking joy? While you're looking at, does the activity spark joy, maybe just think about, is this thought sparking joy? Are the words that I'm saying right now sparking joy? And if they're not, maybe cut them away, right? So just another little way to look at it, because on this podcast, we definitely talk about the inner and the outer work that we need to do in order to have the experiences we want in life. So that's a little bit deviating from the KonMari method. I realize that, but we're kind of crazy on the podcast and we just do that. So that's something I want to offer you. Okay, let's continue with her list here. She recommends tidying by category and not location. I don't know that this is so much applicable in what we're doing, but if it is, it could be tidying by category of your life, say your finances, your relationships, your health and wellness. And in your business, maybe you could find categories within your business that you could tidy. I think that she's just breaking that down further so that it's not one big monster that you have to tackle. So think about categories in your business. The other thing she likes to do is tidy in the right order. Again, you can choose an order because we're going rogue here. We're going off the path. There's no KonMari method for tidying up your business and your life and aligning everything, your activities with joy. So we kind of can write our own ticket here. So don't take this as chiseled in stone. Actually, don't take anything I say as chiseled in stone, but still maybe play with it a little bit. But she talks about tidying in the right order. So if there's a right order for your business, only you will know that. For me, one of the things that I'm thinking about is I'm going to start with the things that are more geared towards marketing and promoting my business and my podcast, and then work down to say more of the creative side, the R&D side, that kind of stuff. Just because I am gearing more, as time goes on, more and more energy, time, and money towards the marketing and promotion of my products and services than I am toward creating them. Still going to create what I feel are super awesome, super simple, and fun products and services that will help you consciously create your life. But I'm really going to focus more on the marketing and advertising side. So when I'm doing the KonMari method on my business, I'm going to say, okay, does this marketing activity spark joy? Does this promoting activity, does this? And so I'm going to go through it that way. You can look at it obviously in your own way for your own business. Lastly, she recommends that we place the things we want to discard in a certain place and then get rid of them. For us, since we're just doing like a schedule trim or a schedule like cut out, or we're working with our schedule, we just need to cut it away from our schedule and make a commitment not to put it back in again. Here's the thing about life, and I'm sure you've seen this in your own experience. Sometimes we do something thinking we're going to get a result. Even though we never get that result, we continue to do it, right? It's this notion that Einstein talked about it. If we do something or approach something in the same way, a problem in the same way, and thinking we're going to get a separate result, a different result from the same state of consciousness that created the problem, we're never going to get that result. But human beings are notorious for doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result rather than changing. I talked about this a little bit in the beginning of Just Be It, the secret to having what you want in life, in this notion that some people will change everything outside of themselves. Their clothing, their car, their home, their friends, the place they work, even the city they live in an effort to have a better experience in life. But they don't change the only thing that matters, and that's changing ourselves, isn't it? Some people just don't do that. I've been guilty of that, certainly in my life, not changing the only thing that matters, my state of being, who I am, what I am, the way I come into the world and the way I show up in the world. Because if I don't change that, nothing's going to change for me. So I think as we move through these exercises, that might help you to kind of get a more of a broader perspective, a more, might I say, enlightened perspective of your business and your life. That might help to kind of give you a more a high level view. I know that works for me because sometimes when I'm really close to the situation or the activity I'm doing, I have no idea whether it's something I should even be doing. When I'm deeply immersed in something, my blinders are on, my focus is on, and I may end up spending hours upon hours and then multiple days, make it part of my recurring schedule, and there's zero benefit to it. So what we're doing in these podcasts, this episode today and the prior episode, we're talking about doing something, being in the state of being that is a joyous state of being, and doing activities that we enjoy, that are enjoyable to us, in an effort to create more joy in our life and not, deviate from that formula. We know you can't plant a seed of corn and grow a potato from that seed. Just like you can't plant a seed of this sucks and I hate doing this and reap a seed of enjoyment from it. It's just not going to happen. So that is the KonMari method for, applying it to your business and your life, looking at it from the aspect of, is this activity sparking joy? And if it's not, making a serious questioning that activity really seriously and saying, you know what, do I need to stop doing this? Because if I'm not in the spirit of joy now, what makes me think I'm going to be in the spirit of joy when this activity, pays off? It's just not going to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen. So that's why I was excited to share these two concepts with you on the podcast today and the podcast yesterday. That would have been episode 64. This is episode 65. Let me know what you think of this. Let me know if you think this KonMari method applying to your life and your business is something that is going to work for you, or if you do it and it does work for you or doesn't work for you, let me know in the comments section of my blog or on my YouTube channel or any of my social media. I'd love to hear your feedback. So that's the episode. I appreciate you for listening, and always, and until next time, all the best, health, wealth, and success. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.